All right.
There's
Rob.
Rob. Right on top. Undermanaged organizers.
Group photo, just in time. All
I haven't
right.
done any work. I'm just swooping in for the photo. It's not fair.
All right. 3, 2, 1, cheese. And then 3, 2, 1, peace.
Peace.
Perfect. Thank you.
We really used to organize and mobilize women around the world to assert that it is not just the right thing to do, but the smart thing to do, that women are at the center of all peace processes.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you, and
you
you are the proof of that you have come in.
She did a very good report on Salafism in Mindanao.
Okay, and you're from?
From Indonesia.
Okay, terima kasih for coming. Apakabar.
Our deputy country representative is there.
Because I have visited a few times.
Please join them. I started my life here.
Is one of the awardees, Lotus Award, that was recently, that will officially be held tonight. Organized by the Asia Foundation. Next to Chairperson Caron is Attorney Elijah Birwar Tumama Alba. It's not a very long name. Who is also a member of Parliament of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority. And she was unanimously elected as Parliament Floor Leader in September 2022. And she is the Minister of the Interior and Local Government in the BARM, or the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. And prior to her current designation, Elijah has served as the Bangsamoro Attorney General and co-headed the Joint Secretariat of the International Government Relations Body, which is a mechanism for cooperation and coordination between the national government and the Bangsamoro government. And when you take your seat. All right, I think we're on to our start now. I would like to make short introduction to of our speakers. I won't be able to do justice to their impressive CVs, so this is a short version of those impressive CVs. First, we have Chairperson of the Bangsamoro Women's Commission and Member of Parliament of the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, the Honorable Bainon Caron, to the extreme left. For everyone, not just the business community, a province, a region, and a municipality where you have that is a good place to do business. It's that's the simple logic. So, how do you analyze this together?
So it's really disheartening just when everything is going for the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao. These things happen, and it is really an indication of how do we treat the pulling out of, like, as I mentioned, the international monitoring team, which could have really helped in avoiding that kind of skirmish or conflict that happened 3 days ago. There are also mechanisms at the level of the national government and the Bangsamoro government, particularly in the security sector, where we are helping each other to make sure that peace and order will be at least maintained or sustained in the region.
Women have contributed in a big way, and that makes my heart delighted, because that was the essential message of 1325 Security Council resolution, that participation of women makes the peace that is agreed upon a much better objective than if they are excluded from it. So that's why, and I'm also delighted to find that the achievement has been codified in a big way through a law and the organic law that you spoke about. And I am particularly happy to hear the messages that you gave to the international community. I think the world and people who are actively supporting implementation of 1325 can be proud of what you have done.
One of our friends there is Maguindanao, she's Darlene Dilangan. So the reason why I really raised my hand, because I'm very moved. I grew up in conflict in the midst of, being a child in Mindanao, as a Moro woman, as a Moro child, growing up among the MILF Mujahideen, and crossing the fire lines of the other conflict group. This is a dream for me.
And in 2014, decommissioning provisions granting MILF women combatants in the Bangsamoro Islamic Women's Auxiliary Brigade with cash grant, social benefits, and housing allowance have not been completed for 12,000 target recipients. Moreover, MNLF women combatants complain about the perceived inequalities in the delivery of services between MNLF and MILF women combatants and civilians. The slow and bureaucratic processing of required documents have deprived them of much needed assistance through the 4Ps program. The second, the effectiveness of the Bangsamoro Women's Commission, especially its regional offices, in pushing for gender equality and women's empowerment is problematic. Through actively leading the vibrant campaign to end violence against women, some regional women leaders consider its collaboration with BWC more, quote, technical rather than strategic. Recruitment to policy research positions has been slowed, compromising its primary function as a policy-making body on a wide range of gender issues. Multilateral and bilateral donors, as well as international NGOs, have invested resources for the capacity development of this. And then finally, what is the status of the Gender and Development Code?
5% of the total budget of all government agencies, from top to bottom, bottom up, will be allocated to gender and development. Economic empowerment projects, training and capacity building on women's participation in leadership, and admittedly, especially in the first 10 years, I would say, there's a lot of misunderstanding or lack of knowledge on how this budget, substantial really, 5% of the total, and there were a few cases of misuse of this budget. But now, with localization, we're very happy to hear, because this is also our experience, is that the mayors, the governors, the municipal councilors, up to the barangay councilors, are approaching us on how best they can use this gender budget. And because our entry point, and it will always be women, peace, and security, and now in synergy with youth, peace, and security, we are able to convince them to direct that to spending on matters or on sub-thematic issues under the women, peace, and security agenda. And I'm so happy to hear that there's now a directive that 2% of that would be allocated to the implementation of the RAP. So that's one point that I wanted to clarify. This is really unique, and I'm really, we're really happy to be working, especially with local, regional, and local officials to make use of, this budget in ways that would really benefit women. The second point, Leah, is related to your question, and this is from our experience in working in Aliosan, North Cotabato, which is one of the farm areas. bar municipalities. And through our cooperation with the mayor and the local officials, we were able to, and the women's participation, of course, women's rights organizations in the localization, we were able to convince them and convince the Peace and Order Council to have greater representation of women. And what does that mean? This happened when the war on drug policy of the Duterte administration was very much, actively implemented, and the women who became members of the Peace and Order Council, that was their main worry. As mothers, as members of their community, that it gave them many sleepless nights that the next victim of Tokang would be their sons. Or Tokang is the word for extrajudicial killing as part of this war on drug strategy. And their representation in the Peace and Order Council gave them a platform to engage with the local police officials. That, wait a minute, before, I'm of course paraphrasing them, before you implement Tokang, let us talk to our communities first. Let us talk to our young people, and then we'll see what is the root cause. Anymore? Okay, me? Oh, okay.
May I add
Sure.
an answer to the question about working with the Philippine National Police or with the police? The Asia Foundation has been working closely with the government of the Philippines Peace Implementing Panel as well as the MIL Peace Implementing Panel, particularly with the government side with the OPAPU, Office of the Presidential Advisor on Peace, Reconciliation, and Unity, in terms of popularizing the ceasefire, the mechanisms, the ceasefire mechanisms within the peace process are architecture, such as the CCCX or the Coordinating Committee on the Cessation of Hostilities, and the Ad Hoc Joint Action Group or the ADJAG. So in terms of raising, this is to prevent the misencounter between the field personnel and the ground government as well as the panel of the MIL in terms of raising the awareness of both field personnel as well as the ground forces to prevent misencounter. So which is very very much crucial, because we don't want to derail further the ongoing implementation of peace agreements as well as ongoing progress that's happening in our region.
Thank you so much, Narayda. And now I'll turn over to Elijah to address one remaining point.
Yeah. So about the proportion of women in the civil service, there's actually data that for executive level positions, there's 11% of women in the civil service of the barn. And for this division chiefs below, rank and file, 52% based on 19 ministries, agencies of the Bangsamoro government that have been interviewed. The LGU women heads, I would like to say that there are LGU women heads that are there on their own. I would cite Mayor Raida Maglangit of the municipality of Kabatagan, Lanao del Sur. She does not belong to a family that has been in politics, and she has sustained the leadership for how many years now. And we would like to believe that with support coming from development partners in making sure that there's safe space for women to share their ambitions and intentions to take part in politics in the farm. I would like to say that we are building capacities and confidence on that. So much so that they don't rely on whether they belong to. And I don't want to really, I just don't want to highlight, I don't want that their relationship to their families is being highlighted in that sense, because they are on their own right, their own persons, and I'm sure that they can represent themselves regardless of the relationship or the affinity that they share with the local politicians. So under political dynasty, I think it's a welcome development, especially for women, because again, you don't have to rely on relationships that you have with political parties.
Thank you very much, Elijah. And Min, you have one last point. All right.
Thank you, Mavic. Thank you very much for just very briefly. I'm Min Garcia. I'm the Deputy Country Representative of the Asia Foundation in the Philippines. Very briefly, the Bangsamoro peace process and the role of women in that process is a bright spot. But there's so much more to be done. The runway that was given for the transition government is very short. Thank you for the historical background. The Philippines from a commonwealth to a republic is still a continuing project. So we need to bear that in mind, that the runway is very short and needs to be longer. So there's so much support that needs to be given. From our point of view, the work is structural and systemic, which means it's longer. So when we do support resilience programming or local economic development programming, it's really getting into the structural and systemic issues. So governance for resilience means that we're not supporting communities so that they can bounce back with the status quo and continue to be poor. Rather, what we want to do is to address the structures of power so that communities can bounce and be more progressive, flourish in their communities. And local economic development is not just livelihood, but it's a whole of government, whole of community approach, which is less and longer. But that's the commitment of the Asia Foundation. The second thing I want to say is that what we have here is a treasure of an intergenerational conversation. And when you go to the barn, you will see in the transition government an intergenerational, collaboration with women like Shah Elijah and Anna Basman and others who are taking positions of power from this generation and learning from the pillars such as Chair Bainon Quirón. So there is, it's more nuanced than just being inclusive in terms of women, but also this whole intergenerational nuance is so, so important. And the third point I want to make is, yes, we are here, we brought Chair Bainon Quirón and we brought Shah Elijah with us, but this award is not, they're receiving it on behalf of a movement of women from the Bangsamoro, from indigenous communities, from your, women like you, and from those who also are out from outside of the region that has helped with the process. So this is a recognition of the Bangsamoro women's movement for peace. And we are just privileged to bring, we wish we can bring more than 5, but that's what I want to emphasize. Is there's a movement just to encourage you, and thank you so much for your heartfelt and powerful sharing. That's the voice that needs to be in spaces like this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Min, for making my life easier as a moderator and wrapping up, this conversation. And on behalf of our co-organizers, the NYU School of Professional Studies Center for Global Affairs, Hunter College Political Science Department, and of course the Asia Foundation, I would like for all of us to give a big applause to our formidable candidates receiving the award tonight, the Lotus Award for Peace tonight. And as Min very well emphasized, the award, Elijah and Chairperson Quirón and MP Aida Silongan are receiving it, but it's really on behalf of the movement in the Bangsamoro and many supporters in the Philippines.
Yes.
And
like yourself, Mavic.
yeah, thank you, and to our online participants, thank you for your contributions, and of course to all of you who have joined us this morning. We will write a short report and send it to all of you. Thank you so much, and let's continue sharing the story of the Bangsamoro women and inspire many more women peace builders around the world, and challenge policymakers that this should be their priority in responding to the